Welcome to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. A reminder, we are streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday between 2 and 3 p.m. I'm going to be joined in the first segment by the Ringer's Dan Devine, who is on the line. We have him. We're good. All right. So I'm going to do the full intro because obviously this is Propaganda Hour Wednesdays. And, Dan, for people listening, is one of the most nicest people in the business, one of the most fair and honest, and quite frankly, one of the best writers, period, in the game. So, Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing great now that I have that wonderful introduction. Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, and as timing would have it, I was just looking on your Twitter recently, and you got what did you receive in your inbox?
I received the official notification that I have been selected as an NBA awards voter, which I can't imagine is of any interest to a listenership in Toronto.
Oh no, look. Listen, I'm just curious. Like, how does actually no, before we actually start the propaganda campaign, because I think Alex briefed you in terms of what's going to happen here. But
he did. He said I can't wait to see you versus Will, and I was like, I didn't know we were in a fight. Okay, cool.
Well, we don't have to fight if we all just vote the same way. But can you just take us through like what the process is? Is it exciting at all when you get the email in the inbox? Is it like a physical thing you mail to the league? Is it like you just go on a website and click some things in the drop down menu? Like, take us through the voting process because I think people are curious about this too.
Okay, so it is. It's all in like drop down menus, and you click names. So that's the excitement level there is like
riveting.
Oh my God, did I accidentally click the wrong name? Checking it 15 times to make sure you don't wind up being like the dude on the Summer Jam screen who cast your vote for Myers Leonard accidentally or something like that, instead of Kawhi or whatever, that kind of thing. There is a certain amount of terror there. There's a certain amount of terror around the entire process because there is a great amount of passion around the league and in its many fan bases about the awards process. And so you kind of know that no matter what you do, you're going to die, certainly to some degree. So there's a little bit of trepidation about that. But as far as like the process itself, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I have one. I didn't used to have one. I've been doing this full time now for about a decade. I got my first vote a couple of years ago, and they've continued to give it to me. So it's like it's super cool and it's an honor. It's also one of the most stressful things that I do in my year. So that process is starting now. Like, my editor today said, I don't think we need something for you for Friday. So like, why don't you start working on award stuff? And it felt like when you have like the end of your semester project due and you're like, well, there's nothing else for me to do but work on this. I better get started.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if it's really a blessing or a curse, really, because it does set the media up for people to be mad at them. But look, on this show, we're fair, we're balanced, we're honest, and as long as
my understanding is that it's Propaganda Hour Wednesday, so I can't think of many more things more fair and balanced than that.
Yeah. Listen, well, you know what? Before we actually go into it, we actually have a clip right here. Your boss at the Ringer, Bill Simmons, in terms of which way he's leaning for Rookie of the Year. Derek, play the clip.
Brings me to Rookie of the Year. I think I'm going to pick Barnes. The way this season is going. Now, there's 8 games left. I could flip again, but what a victory lap for you. You were on Scottie, the draft. You were like, there's something about him. I'm telling you, you would love him. You don't watch enough college basketball. You didn't say that it's insulting because I don't watch enough college basketball. You're like, if you watch college basketball all the time, this would have been your favorite player. Watching him, the way he's evolved over the course of this season, and how much he means to Toronto. He's playing 36 minutes a game, right?
I couldn't believe it.
It's like a fucking 30-year-old. He's playing 36 minutes a game. He plays point guard kind of for them. I don't know. They use him. He kind of roams around. I don't even know what position he is on defense. He's just kind of everywhere. Has all kinds of swagger. I think what is he, 19, 20 years old? The way he carries himself is nuts. He's going to be around a while. He's very Kawhi-ish at times, which is ironic because they had Kawhi. But in general, like, they're going to have a better record than Cleveland. And to me, if they have a better record than Cleveland, he's the Rookie of the Year.
All right. So, Dan Devine from The Ringer. With that in mind, let's get to that topic of Rookie of the Year. And you have a ballot. So, as of right now, Is there one particular way you're leaning?
As of right now, no, there isn't.
Okay. Okay.
And the reason for that is I like to be able to I kind of want to wait until the last possible second, but also where you're looking at the different advanced stats, also the trends over the course of the year. You're considering record, you're considering role, you're considering a lot of things. And I think I also want to be careful to be aware of sort of like the anchoring effect of, so if Evan Mobley has been kind of the pick for a lot of people for, whatever, 3 months, like, are you sort of like unnecessarily or incorrectly weighting that because it's just like the piece of information you have locked into your head, like, oh, he's the front runner.
Mhm.
And so like you want to be able to kind of divorce yourself a little from that context and dig in a little bit more. So I would say I haven't, like I just said to you, we just got past a deadline today on something that I was working on, and I thought I was going to have to do something else for Friday, and then my awards kind of digging in was going to start beginning of next week, so that I have not actually started really started digging into it. I mean, to me, the top two are Barnes and Mobley. If you asked me probably a month ago, I probably would have said Evan Mobley. Now it's certainly closer. I mean, Barnes has been fantastic. You certainly know you don't need me to run through the statistical argument or the role argument, but the fact that you have a dude this young doing this much on a team of this consequence that needs it, and that he's earned that trust like instantly, in a way that is, I mean, a little bit different than Mobley, in that Mobley had a sort of a kind of narrowly tailored role early, and then with Jared Allen out, he's had to expand it a little bit more. But the variety of things that Scottie's had to do and the roles he's had to occupy is kind of breathtaking. So that's like, I wouldn't say I'm leaning one way or the other, but I'm certainly like, that is definitely where what might have been like more of an open and shut case a month ago is not anymore, because of how important Scottie's versatility has been over the last month.
Yeah, and listen, look, I know you just wrote this great piece on Karl Anthony Towns' situation. Finally catches up to his talent, and we're going to discuss that too, because the Raptors are actually, just as it happens, playing Karl Anthony Towns and the Timberwolves today. And of course, look, I've been a writer in this game as well. Like, there's a lot of deadlines. So, one thing I really appreciate is when other writers help me with some of the homework, and I feel like I could help you a little bit with this.
No, but you know what? I would really welcome it, Will. Come on with it.
Okay, well, here's the thing. So I'm really happy you said that, because actually the last week when we tried this, we tried to run the same pattern with Tim Bontemps of ESPN, and I think he was very firmly entrenched into the Mobley. My vote is for Mobley. Mobley's led the whole way. That's my guy, and I'm happy that you've pointed out some of the heuristics, the heuristical biases that sort of come with thinking that way. And of course, you have to really do evaluate at the end of everything. And unfortunately, right now, Mobley's hurt, so it's harder for him to sort of add or change his argument in any way. I think, look, one thing that's been really interesting, right? Because this Rookie of the Year race is fantastic, right? I was watching Cade last night against the Nets. I mean, I know the Nets really can't guard anybody, but wow, Cade can really do some damage there too. And really, I think team record, and I guess the fact that he started the season hurt takes him out of the running a little bit, but in the cases of Mobley and Barnes, their numbers are quite similar, as I'm sure you already know and you've already said. And I think the one way to evaluate them actually has come in the last month or so, really. It's sort of like both teams are in that playoff race. Both teams are looking to avoid the play-in. Cleveland obviously was not really in threat of that until injuries happened. But look, injuries are going to happen over the course of the season, right? The way that Cleveland has had injuries is pretty tragic, honestly. They're even losing Dean Wade and stuff like that, and I feel bad for them. But since I didn't mean to dismiss Dean Wade like that. I'm sorry. I genuinely feel bad for Dean Wade. Get well soon, Dean Wade. But since Jared Allen went down, though, March 6th, right? The Cavs are 5-6 during that time. They've gotten some impressive wins, but at the same time, this is during a time where they really need to keep pace in the playoff race. They haven't been able to do that. They've been starting to slide down. Toronto's been actually the one that's bumped them out of it, although they could still end up ahead of the Bulls. But Mobley during that time, he's really had to step up and, at least anchor one end of the floor. Maybe not offensively, because we know he's not a guy who creates his own offense, but defensively, the Cavs have actually suffered a lot without Allen in the lineup. And of course, other guys have been injured. I'm not really trying to say that just because he can't single-handedly prop up the defense is not that he's disqualified. But is that sort of something that's factoring into your purview when you're looking at this? Like, when the Cavs really needed to stay afloat in this playoff race, Mobley was, not single-handedly able to keep them in it, which is totally fair for a rookie to not do. But at the same time, is that a factor? Because on the other front, Scottie's done a lot in this post-trade deadline period where OG and Fred and Gary have missed a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it factors in less as like necessarily a demerit on Mobley's case that he didn't put the team on his back in that way, and more that like had he done that, I think that might have been kind of the slam dunk nail in the coffin, whatever phrasing you want to use for it. Like that would have been like the indication of, well, this is over, and that not happening. While again, I think you're right to point like there's other mitigating factors there, and it's not necessarily his fault. It opens the door a little bit more. And again, like I think the main argument to me in Barnes's favor is just like, it's almost like he fits whatever container you put him in and whatever they need from him. Like that you have, and Bill mentioned it. I've heard other people mention it as well. Like that idea that you can have somebody who's seems equally comfortable kind of playing point and playing center and defending both positions at the same time at this age is wild to me. And being able to do that in a way that mitigates those, the different types of players that Toronto has had out, or the different rotational decisions that Nick Nurse has had to make, like they've become easier to deal with because Barnes can just plug so many gaps. And that is really something that's rare to see. It's rare to see, period. It's especially rare to see from a rookie and one so young. So I think it's like that. I wouldn't necessarily say that like Mobley loses the award because he didn't, the Cavs have struggled since Allen went down, but I think it's certainly a data point. Like you have to consider how much of the lead that was built earlier in the season was built on the back of Allen being like a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate and Darius Garland being, sort of elevating to an all-star who can, sort of table set and create offense in a way that Mobley is not able to for himself. And that's not, again, he's a 20-year-old power forward. Like those guys are not supposed to be able to just start initiating on their own. But I think that sets in relief how impressive it's been that like, well, you kind of can ask Scottie Barnes to do that. You kind of can ask him to go shift from like a number 1 or 2 usage initiator to the 4th or 5th guy who attacks us off closeout or whatever, like that ability to be what a team needs kind of on any given possession is super, super valuable. And has been, it's like the underpinning of Barnes's case, I think.
Yeah, look, I think that's exactly it. And I think, I'm just going to throw you a couple other numbers just, because this is mostly what I had prepared.
That's fine. I love them. Let's hear it. I can start arguing. If you want me to start just being like, actually, we're, like, forget about it. It's Cade Cunningham. I can do that. We'll do that. Maybe it'll spice it up.
Listen, if Cade had played the whole season, I don't know, man. Cade is special. I really like
nasty.
Cade. He's got that, herky jerky game. It's really weird, man. Him and Scottie both have like the ability to play an old man game because most rookies are just rushing, playing a little bit too fast, and that sort of contributes to their lack of efficiency. And I think, both Cade and Scottie had that old man game. I don't know what they're teaching kids at Von Verde, but it's working. It's working. They must be showing them tape from like the 1980s. But yeah, I think for me, just seeing what Scottie has done post trade All-Star break has been just so impressive because like he won on a string there where look, the Raptors were struggling, right? They had some injuries. They had multiple games where they had like single digits in terms of threes made, and guys were in and out of the lineup, and it was really tough to see. And Fred was out, and Gary was out, and OG was out, and Scottie stepped into all these roles. But I think when you look beyond just sort of the numbers and sort of like, okay, what position did he play? It was also like the in-game kind of stuff because the Raptors, I think their best stretch of the season has been going out west 5 games in a row and winning all 5. And in that San Antonio game where they won by 15, it was first off right after a loss to Cleveland. At that point, it seemed like the Raptors were destined to go into play-in, right? They go on the road. They're in tough. They got injuries. Scottie in that Spurs game, in that third quarter, look up what he did in that third quarter. He had like 15 points, really willed the Raptors to life. The game was close at that point. It became a blowout at that point, and the Raptors went on to win. Against Phoenix, Raptors go into Phoenix. Obviously, they didn't have Chris Paul, but Phoenix has been winning tons of games without Chris Paul. Guess what Scottie does in the last 2 minutes? 3 steals. The Raptors closed that game out based on defense, and Scottie was the one collecting 3 steals. By the way, he had 5 steals in that game, which is ridiculous, along with 2 blocks. Then they go into Denver, back-to-back. Second half of back-to-back. This is really tough. Like, these are like the raw, granular games where if you don't win these, you don't stay afloat in the playoff race. You slide down. You might have to play Brooklyn. They go into Denver. Scottie Barnes scores 25 points, has 10 assists, has 8 rebounds. He's running point. He's also guarding Jokic to the point where he was so successful guarding Jokic down the stretch. Jokic didn't have a single basket in the fourth quarter as the Raptors ran away with that one at the end. He was throwing Scottie around because he was so frustrated with the physicality. Then they go into Los Angeles, right? And the Lakers, whatever, they're garbage. But like 21 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists for Scottie. That's already pretty impressive. But you consider the fact that he was 7 of 7 from the field at the start of the game. And the Raptors literally went up by 20 and they just held that lead the rest of the way. Then they played the Clippers and Scottie was less prominent in that game, but still had a really nice performance. And you're looking at a 5-game period on the road in the West where you really can make or break your season. And Scottie had a direct impact in swinging I guess 4 of the 5 games, but still the Raptors win all 5 games. And, that's mostly my case. It's just that stretch showed me a ton about Scottie. But listen, Dan, you also have another key decision, which is the All-NBA teams, which is arguably even more difficult because there's so many candidates to consider. And I just want to hear your initial thoughts on, would you potentially have Pascal Siakam somewhere near your ballot when you're thinking about, like, you make a list of like 60 guys who can make this list, only 15 make it. Is Pascal in that group, at least for you?
He's definitely he's nearer to that 15 than I would have expected at the beginning of the season. I mean, he's been sensational for like 3 months now, 3.5 months, and has picked it up even more of late. And as I think a big, like the big sort of domino is, what do you do first team center? And that's like everybody, it's become the primary point of discussion and contention and drama and anxiety and agita and everything. Like, if they're making both Jokic and Embiid eligible at forward, do you just put the two of them on because they are 2 of the 3 best players in the league? And so that's, then if one forward spot goes away and then you're bumping, whoever it would be, Tatum or somebody else to second team, and then you have to bump somebody else out down to third team. And then is that like where you wind up in a numbers crunch with Siakam? Right. I will again say I have not like done that, put the spreadsheet out with 50 names on it yet. But I will say, like, the fact that Siakam has like not just reclaimed the form that he had before the pandemic started and before the season in Tampa and everything, but like reached a higher level than that play. And again, doing it like in games, where like this is a team that's been in a dogfight for a playoff spot the entire time, and now like has a real shot at getting all the way up to like 5th in this situation, like is really sort of special. See, here's the NBA is coming for me now that I'm getting my votes out on the air.
That's the sound of Raptors Twitter coming for you. All right, if you don't have the right votes right now.
Well, the good news is Raptors Twitter will come for me if I don't have the right votes. Sixers Twitter will come for me if I don't have the right votes. Nuggets Twitter will come for me if I don't have the right votes. No, we're the worst
one though. You don't understand how many Canadians there are. You just don't understand it. We have nothing else we're interested in. Just all NBA.
See, Will, you're talking to me like I'm somebody who hasn't been doing this with the Raptors for many, many years. I'm very familiar with Raptors Twitter and the Canadian sports infrastructure. But then I think my guess, just like back of the envelope math, is if Siakam will probably be in that mix for like third team.
Yeah.
But I have not actually like done the slotting yet. But I think the fact that, I mean, the hope, or the thing that's like so to me is so great about it is like, that's the way things were last season, where it's, obviously a down year after the down performance in the bubble and before the end, in the injury, like that is an opportunity for things to go one of 2 ways for a player, especially, like a guy who is coming off, had like a really sort of steady ascent in his career. And then like, bam, here is this huge adversity. And now are you the guy that got the max contract and all these plaudits and all this praise and was put into this position to be the guy who can carry us forward, or not? And you can fall apart from that. I mean, it's not the same exact thing, but Julius Randle's going through an awfully rough patch right now in New York. And I think there's some concern like, oh, well, is this just like that was a 1-year blip and now it's over? And then, next year will obviously tell the tale there. Siakam was in a similar spot and came back healthy and has completely, rediscovered who he is. And so that's, whether that's going to wind up in an All-NBA berth, I don't know for sure. But I think the fact that he's even back in the conversation has been one of the better storylines of like a player kind of getting knocked down and picking himself back up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really fun to see for him because I think just noticing his vibe around the team and the way he's speaking to media and everything like that. I think there's just so much more positivity. He just oozes positivity. There's like it's kind of like the feeling where like you go through like your teenage years and you have some like real angst in your life, and then like you eventually get into your 30s, which I am not in yet, just to be clear. But like you get to your 30s and you're just like, you know what, man, like life's okay. Like I know what I gotta do, like day to day. I know what's important, and you sort of like approach it with, I guess, less anxiety overall. At least this is my hope, maybe potentially when I get to my 30s. But actually, so two things with this. I think number one, the position thing with Embiid and Jokic. I guess what's curious to me is so last year in the MVP race, right, the top two were exactly the same, Embiid and Jokic. Jokic slightly ahead. I think this year, I think it's gonna be the same deal. But like when it came down to the All NBA teams last year, there wasn't like, oh, it was such a travesty that we're gonna have to put one of these MVP candidates on the second team because you had Jokic who got 99 first place votes for first team All NBA center, and then you had Embiid who got 28 votes for first team All NBA center. So he was just on second team, and I don't think anyone really argued about this. So why is it like so? It's like a huge imperative to have them both on the first team this year.
I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I was in that spot last year too, and I'm like, well, they are 1 and 2 on my MVP ballot, but they are 1 and 2 on the first teams. And like
I checked the votes. I looked at that spreadsheet. I zoomed in a lot. I saw your name, and I just made sure that you had Jokic first team and Embiid second team, which is totally reasonable.
Yeah, it did not, and it didn't seem nuts to me. Like and so the argument is, well, if they have been the 2 best players in the league now for 2 years, or 2 of the 3, and Giannis is part of that conversation, and then 2 of the 4, and include KD or whatever, however far the concentric circles of that, how far you want to go. Like it's silly to then not have both of them represented in what is considered like these are the 5 best players in the league this year. As that All NBA first team. Here are the 5 best players in the league. Well, the NBA has chosen to address that by making them eligible at 2 different positions, but not by stripping out the idea of positionality altogether and saying like, who are the 5 best guys? And I don't know. I'm not totally sure what problem they think that solves that just getting rid of positions would solve more cleanly. That wouldn't where like. And what problem they think getting rid of positions altogether would create that this also does not create. I'm not sure exactly why this is like the split the baby idea.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's like you are who you guard, and like those guys guard 5s. Neither one of them is a is a prime. It's not the same to me as like LeBron James is the point guard and he also guards 2s, 3s, and 4s. It's different than that, and because he is those are 5s. Like and so maybe that's just like, rigid positional construct in my brain. And I have to like, drop LSD and get cool with the idea of everybody is playing every position all the time. And nothing from the past ever matters. But like, if they have positions and they're saying these are centers, one guy's a center, the other guy's a center, which one should be on the team? Like, then I think you have to pick one. I think what's complicating more now is that you've had more people this year, including some very prominent national voices saying, well, I did this way last year, and now I'm not gonna this year.
Mm-hmm.
And once a couple of people start doing that, the dominoes start to fall, and then it becomes, well, if you don't do it this way, then you are sort of out of step with what the general position of the cognoscenti is. And I don't know which way that's going to fall. I don't know, what consequences that's going to rely on. But like my kind of feeling is, if you got 2 guys who are centers, then one of them's a center on one team and one of them's a center on the other team. Maybe I get a cosmic kick in the head by next week and I change my mind on that. But I don't know why it's such a big deal. I don't know why people are losing their minds about it. If you want to lose your minds about anything, I think it's the idea that there's positionality, period.
Yeah,
put the 15 best guys on and then go from there. But I mean, I guess the flip side of that is I don't know if necessarily someone like Siakam makes the top 15 in a really guard heavy or center heavy league.
Yeah.
But when there's 2 forward spots on 3 different teams, that might open the door a little bit more for them. So there might be a silver lining to it for Raptors Twitter and Raptors fans, but that'll be my headache to deal with, and the headache of 100 or so other media members over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. Listen, I mean, look, I don't think there needs to be a consensus with how people vote. I mean, that's the bedrock of our democracies, that we allow people to have, the ability to vote freely and, express their wants and desires. And that's I mean, it's not even fair to push people about how they vote, right? Anyway, last thing I want to say about Pascal actually is, um, so so the Raptors actually, when you look at the divide in the season, I think Pascal coming off of shoulder surgery and then not just coming back to play, but coming back to form, right? Because you come off of major surgery like that, it's going to take you a while to get ready. I would say
Mhm.
that that's the major divide, because when you look at basically in the calendar year of 2022 onward, there are actually only 5 teams in the NBA that have won more games in the calendar year of 2022 than the Toronto Raptors. They actually are the second best team in the Eastern Conference when you look at that stretch. The only team with more wins is obviously the Boston Celtics, who have won pretty much every game in recent memory,
Right.
although that only leaves them with 2 more wins. They have 30 wins in 2022. The Raptors have 28 wins in 2022. And you might say, well, look, the Raptors, it's more of a team effort. I agree with you. It is a team effort. However, there's a clear cut number one. And when you look at since the start of 2022, Fred is shooting under 40% from the field. He's been banged up, missed a lot of time. Gary Trent Jr. is shooting under 40% from the field. He's been banged up, missed some time. OG Anunoby has only played 2 games since the AllStar break because he had a finger issue. So it's very clear cut in terms of who has been the main driver of that Raptors success. And it's been Pascal. And the overall numbers might look like relatively modest when you're looking at 24 points, 8.4 rebounds, 5.5 assists, shooting 50% from the field, 40% from three. Like that's like almost standard now for most all-star players, considering
Yeah.
just how much offense is in the league. But I mean, it's contributed directly to a lot of winning. And when you look at the Raptors like hierarchy, I'm not even trying to put other guys down. It's just very clear that like Pascal's the main guy. And Dan, I hope all this really helped you in your
Sense, yes.
preparation for how you're gonna vote. Obviously, it's a very difficult decision. All jokes aside, honestly, like I think is if Pascal's not on All NBA, can we just become humbly honest? It's not like the biggest travesty. However, he should just be in that conversation, and I just want to hear his case discussed by basically everyone because I think he's played well enough, and the Raptors have played well enough to be in that conversation. But Dan Devine from The Ringer, if you haven't already read it, read his piece on Karl Anthony Towns. We ran out of time to talk about this, but it's a really nice piece. It really explains a lot of what's made Minnesota really successful. I mean, damn, this is their second winning season in the last 17 years.
Yeah, man, it's been rough over there. But
That's really rough.
but hopefully for the folks listening, it doesn't their success does not continue tonight. I want good things for
Mm,
Raptors fans,
I agree.
primarily so that everyone's in a good mood when they get to me. That's what I'm looking for.
All right, you're looking for mercy. Well, the easiest way to mercy is 2 correct votes. So, Dan, appreciate your time, and
Thank,
we'll chat soon. All right.
thanks a lot, Will.
All right, that's a good spot for us to take a break. I'm your host, Walu. You've been listening to The Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590, The Fan. Welcome back to the Raptors Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I'm your host, Will Lou. First off, a huge shout out to Dan Devine for coming on. Very open-minded, I think, to the award race. But, look, it's a big conversation, and I think it's a good conversation. This is why we have it every week, actually. And we're going to keep doing this with more members who hold votes for these awards. But in the meantime, I am joined in the second segment by Vivek Jacob of Raptors.com, or should I say co-host of the Fan Morning Show, the Fan Soccer Show. Vivek, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I am a non-voter who would like to say that Pascal Siakam should absolutely be on the All-NBA third team.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the work you're doing in swinging these votes.
Yeah, there should be a Raptor super PAC. Can I just say that? Yeah. Anyway, so,
but yeah, man, just gotta take it all in, man. Pascal doing his thing, Scottie doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot to like right now for the Raptors.
Yeah, seriously. And a lot to like for the Raptors. And I was thinking about talking Raptors, obviously, as we do every Wednesday. However, my process for this is I like to scroll down your timeline and see your Raptors thoughts and sort of read the pieces that you've been writing and sort of formulate the topics based on that. However, it took me a long time before I saw anything Raptors, all right? Because you obviously, like most other Canadians, have been completely enthralled with the fact that the men's national team is qualified for the 2022 World Cup. And they got that result. I mean, it was a virtual guarantee. You called it even after they lost with only 10 men that, they're going to go play Jamaica and they needed a win or a draw, and they got a 4-0 win. And look, listen, we always talk soccer on this show when you come on, so this is not like a real break from what we usually do. But we're not going to talk about United. We're not going to talk about Liverpool, all that stuff. We're going to talk about Canada and just how good of a feeling it was.
Let's do it.
Yeah, man. What was your thoughts? What was your emotions? Walk me through it, man. I mean, because for I think I'm always interested in how immigrants experience Canada just in general. But I think in terms of through sports and athletics, I think this is one of those unique cases where you're from India, I'm from China. Our teams are never in the World Cup. We gotta host that thing. We gotta be Qatar, essentially. All right, to be in the World Cup. So, we get to cheer for Canada. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And thinking about coming here in 2002 and just finding a niche group that was really into soccer that you could talk soccer with, play soccer with, and I remember when you'd get to the Champions League knockout stage and you would have to struggle to find a bar that would show the games, right?
Yeah,
and
seriously.
you have to convince people to put it on. And we've seen that progressively shift as the access has increased, and to get to this point where you have this team that I keep going back to the point that it's not just having a team that's going to the World Cup, it's having a team that plays this style of football, right?
Yeah.
You look at that. Yeah. You even look at the match that they lost when they go down to Costa Rica. Costa Rica was on their heels the entire second half at home, up a man.
Yeah.
And Canada just kept coming and coming and coming.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for, just being unlucky, hitting the post a couple of times and, chance after chance, obviously Keylor Navas was huge. That tells you everything you need to know about this Canada team. They can play, and they're doing all this without Alphonso Davies.
Yeah. Who has been just the best Twitch streamer possible. His emotions on that stream is incredible. But I think that's reflective of how a lot of people feel about this team and the way they've done it. And I'm really happy you mentioned the way they play too, because they've had the most goals in this competition so far in this qualifying period, and and obviously the way they were able to clinch at home at BMO, right? Obviously the conditions once again really reflective of Canada, all right? Because I think 2 days before that, me and Alex were outside playing basketball in the park. I was wearing shorts, no problem. And then Sunday rolls around and it's freezing, it's windy, and there's hail and all this stuff. But the Raptors, or not the Raptors, the Canada is able to secure.
Hey,
the
shout
result.
out to Freddie and Pascal being there.
Shout out to Freddie and Pascal being there. That was awesome. Masai was there as well. Nick Nurse, as you reported, was taking photos with members of the national team who came through to watch the Raptors.
Man, that ovation was awesome.
That was the Celtics game. Yeah, walk us through that one.
So, initially pregame, it's just a few of the guys that showed up to take that in, and I guess the rest of the team came in later. Obviously, a few guys were missing as well. I'm sure they had a great time celebrating the night before.
Yep.
But yeah, when they were introduced, I wasn't sure how they do the introductions, whether it was just going to be a quick little, just show them on the jumbotron,
Right.
acknowledge them, that type of thing. So to have them walk out to center court and play like all those clips from this run that they've been on,
Yeah.
and have like it was literally like, one of your favorite Raptors came back into town and they played this tribute video, and the entire time the crowd is just going nuts. Like the
Nice.
appreciation for this team, that made me so proud to see where soccer is at right now in this country, in this city. That was incredible, and I'll never forget it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was reading about how the idea for this run, especially for soccer in Canada at this moment, because you cannot forget the fact that the women's team have been consistently delivering. Obviously, them winning the gold medal at the Olympics at Tokyo was
Hmm.
just a tremendous moment as well. One of just again, that was just another really happy moment. That game was like 3 hours, by the way. They played the final, they played extra time, and then they went to the penalty kicks and everything like that. But I think the idea for soccer in Canada right now, they're trying to recapture what the Raptors did with basketball in 2019. And I think that there is that sense and that feeling of like when the entire nation can rally around this one group, um, it's a really special feeling. And that's kind of how I'm feeling about Canada soccer right now as they're going to the World Cup. So honestly, it's going to be really fun. And yeah, I can't wait to watch a bunch of these games with you, V. Unless you're working these, which I wouldn't be surprised, quite honestly.
No, Will, that last point you made is so great because, again, going back to maybe when we came here, right? It was almost like, hey, you can't be Canadian without loving hockey. But
Hmm.
now we are at a point where, hey, you're just as Canadian if you love basketball. You're just as Canadian if you love soccer. You're
Yeah,
just as Canadian if you love tennis. And I think you look at what our athletes are accomplishing in those fields. Um, it's a beautiful time
yeah.
to be in this country and watch them go at it in these sports.
And listen, man, there's lots of radio talk on this station, and I don't think there's lots of hockey talk on this station, but uh, what was so and I don't think it makes you not an immigrant to really like hockey. I think lots of immigrants love hockey. You can identify through hockey, then that's totally fine. But I think for a lot of other immigrants, like you also want to see that similar story reflected in the people that play that game. And when you watch
Hmm.
basketball and when you watch this soccer, this men's national team in particular, right? The backgrounds that these people are from, the stories that they've had. I was hearing guys like Eustachio with the interview afterwards, and he talked about the decision obviously between Portugal and representing Canada. And look, partially Portugal's team is stacked, right? They just qualified as well. Um, but the fact that they chose this country, that team is made up almost entirely of immigrants, it's something that a lot of people can rally around, especially because of the fact that soccer is such an international game. It's great to see Canada join that. And yeah, again, like for me, I've loved soccer all my life, but I'm I'm not gonna watch China play in international competitions. They're terrible, right? So like, and I think it's probably the same for you in India. But that's why you're a Dutch fan, and I really love watching France play. Well, it's like that's fine, but like, come on, we really have no actual attachment to these places. But
Right.
now we can just cheer wholeheartedly for Canada, which is super awesome. So that's we've actually gone over our soccer talk once again on this show. I know Alex is at home just fuming right now. So we're going to switch it back to basketball, to the Raptors. And you wrote this really nice piece on Chris Boucher for Raptors.com. It's just called Impact Boucher. And, one stat here I wanted to start with. You wrote, over the last 60 games last season, the 29-year-old drew a total of 2 charges and contested a team best 11.8 shots per game. This season, the charge that he drew on James Harden, which by the way was one of 2 that he drew on Harden, which was also the game clinching play, was number 12 for Boucher, right? 12 compared to 2, and this season's not even done. While his shot attempts have been cut down to 5.8. So talk to me about that and what that says about Chris's approach to defense this season.
Yeah, I think it says everything that you need to know about him on the defensive end, where he's understanding that, he doesn't need to chase numbers. And if you put yourself in the right position, he said it himself. A charge can be just as effective as a block. And sometimes, guess what? A charge can be it can be better than a block because it guarantees you're getting the possession, right? So you
Mhm.
can block a shot and someone, the opponent can still get the ball back and put it in. Guess what? You get a charge, you're getting the ball. Um, and so I think Chris Boucher, I asked Nick Nurse about this. What's it take for a guy to go from mentally, trying to time himself and position himself for blocks to saying, hey, I'm going to flip the switch and I'm going to get myself in the right position to take charges. And Nick Nurse was like, man, that can't be easy,
Mhm.
right? That temptation that's always there because guess what? He still does it effectively, at the 3-point line. We still see him running out and sometimes getting those blocks on 3-point shooters. And so to change it up inside around the basket, understanding that has more of a deterrence and i- the shot contest is a big thing for me. For that to be cut down from 12 to 6, it shows me that he's consistently getting to the right spots where opponents are saying, "Oh, okay, we've got nothing here."
So they're
And
not
they've
even
either got
shooting.
to exactly.
Right.
So they've either got to reset or find an open teammate or whatever it is, and that is how you impact the game at a level that, obviously we're not going to compare, in terms of defense, Chris Boucher and Marc Gasol. But when you look at Marc Gasol's numbers, the raw numbers never dictated how impactful he was on the court.
Mhm.
And it's little things like that where you see Marc Gasol and you're not even taking the shot. And so Chris Boucher to cut those shot contests down from 12 to 6, and you're saying, hey, this is trouble. Let's go look somewhere else. That to me is how you impact the game way beyond the numbers.
Yeah, and I think part of that also is the fact that he's playing more two center lineups too. So
Hmm.
he's not at the rim, which obviously are where the majority of shots are going to be contested and where they're going to be located. However, I think it's totally been noticeable how much more disciplined Chris has been on the defensive end, how much more impactful he's been. And like I think for him personally, um, you've also pointed out that there's been an off-court adjustment for Chris in terms of his mentality and sort of keeping him calm during these games, and it has to do with an assist from team physical therapist Ray Chow. So what's going on there?
Yeah, so this was something that Boucher actually opened up about earlier in the season, where he was kind of in his own head, and Ray Chow felt like he was going a million miles a minute on the court, and so he suggested that in order to slow down, just take things one thing at a time. Maybe some meditation would help, and
Mm,
that's where Chris Boucher said, "Okay, yeah, I'm trying to do whatever I can to get on the court right now because let's face it, those first month and a half, 2 months, it was rough for him, and so he took on meditation and enjoyed it, and it helped center him, and it helped him sort of calm down and just stop thinking too much and getting too ahead of himself, and just saying, hey, okay, let's make this what are we doing here? Are we switching? Are we, and so just taking everything one step at a time as opposed to thinking about 500 different things, I think has really uh eased things on the court for him. And that's where we're seeing a little bit less of that jumpiness that we kind of got accustomed to. We're seeing him being more proactive. It's just the decision making where, hey, if you're going to commit to a decision, go ahead, make it. And then the Raptors, the way they are, they can scramble and react off of that. It's when you show that indecision that everything kind of goes haywire.
right, right. And it's interesting because he actually you'll see him do this physically on the court where when he's at the free throw line lining up to get a rebound, for example, especially on the first free throw of two, right? There's no rebound there. So he'll line up, but he'll like get into this like deep squat, Nick Nurse style
Hmm.
almost. And you'll see him do this repeatedly over the course of the game during action. I think during the intros and stuff like that, he's doing this. And it's like I think that's actually when he's trying to sort of relax and try to meditate a little bit and try to get himself into the calmness and the state of mind because going back to this point on charges, like you're not really going to take a charge unless you've really read everything in that situation. You realize this is the only option that the attacker is going for. This is the one that he set his mind up on, and you're able to beat him to that spot and read it and take that contact. Like that's really the key to the charge is reading the play. And I think the fact that he's leading the Raptors, and I mean, the Raptors have really fallen off in charges, obviously with Kyle gone, but the way Chris has led the team in charges, he's starting to make more of those on a consistent basis. It really speaks to the fact that he's been just much more aware of what's going on, which has been great to see. And honestly, like when you think about it, so Chris started the season really poorly, coming off the injury, playing different roles, whatever, he's talked about this, but he's really turning around. And when I'm thinking about who has been the sixth man of the year for the Raptors, because I think, honestly, there's probably like an advanced stats case to be made for Chris to be in that sixth man of the year conversation. We all know realistically he's not going to make it just because I don't think the national audience has any awareness of what's going on specifically. But at least locally on this team, would you say Chris has been the sixth man on the Raptors?
Unquestionably. Like, ever since those first couple months, he's been the most consistent Raptor off the bench. Like, the level of expectation I have for him now versus maybe those first couple months is night and day. He comes into the game, you know what he's going to give you. And this is also him taking pride in his role. And, he kind of talked about that Cleveland game where it was like, oh, it was kind of an awakening and realizing this is what it's like to be the main option. It's not easy.
He's like, I don't want
It's
this.
really difficult.
I don't want it. Yeah.
And so for him to maybe have that wake up call and that realization that, hey, I know what I can bring to the table. Let me just focus on that and be not content, but take pride in it. And I highlighted this in the story. There was that game at home against Chicago, and it goes to overtime, and Chris Boucher comes in for Scottie Barnes for a bit, is impactful, makes a difference on both ends, gets a steal, and then Scottie Barnes comes in with about 50 seconds left. And at this point, the Raptors pretty much have the game in the bag. And you would think, oh, why is Nick even bringing Scottie back in? It seemed like he was pulled for a bit of a knee issue. Why not just leave him out? Let Chris close it out. Let him enjoy the moment. And Chris could have been thinking that too, right? Like, let me enjoy this moment. I watched him go to the bench as the substitution happened, and he was pumped, and he was giving high fives. And again, that is just taking pride in your role, saying, hey, I was asked to do something. I went out and did it, and I helped my team win this game.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think, it's been, Chris is a really thoughtful guy. Obviously, look, I have talked to Chris, and I will talk to Chris for this program as well. That's not what this is about. But no, I think in just sort of seeing him this year and sort of hearing more of his thoughts and sort of realizing sort of who he is, like I think he's got a good quote in him too, man. Because look at this bit of wisdom that you have in your piece, right? He said, quote, "Life is a big circle. I've had ups and downs my whole life. So I just realized that one thing I've done my whole life is just find ways to get better and find the light at the end of the tunnel." And then he went on to say that, it's just realizing the things that are really important in life and to go to do your job with all the effort and energy that you can. And I think that kind of wisdom and that approach has really been the key to everything Chris has done this year. And I think, look, man, the bigger picture is it's in a contract year too. And he's essentially said, I don't really care about the scoring like that. I don't need to get all my blocks. I'm willing to do the little things. I want to get the team to win. It's not easy to get a guy in a contract year to do that, man. And I think that speaks to Chris's maturity first and foremost. That also speaks to Nick Nurse and what his coaching staff has been able to do with the team. And yeah, it's been great to watch. I mean, listen, this is gonna be rebranded as the Chris Boucher propaganda podcast as well. So just to keep score, we're doing this for Scottie, we're doing this for Pascal, we're doing this for Utah, obviously, and we're doing this for Chris as well. So I guess we're only the second most Chris friendly program, considering the fact that he literally has his own show. But yeah, we're right. He's made me into a fan this year, absolutely, based on the way he's played.
Hey, I see it with the tweets. I see it, in the things you say on the podcast. You've definitely come around on him, and I think he would have won a lot of people over with the way he's turned around his season.
Absolutely.
And good for him.
Yeah. Lastly, before we have 30 seconds for you to respond to this, but you tweeted out Punjabi, Ron Jeremy, Wale. That's my top three. Do you care to contextualize this tweet? You have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, this is the Matt Devlin, Jack Armstrong experience in a nutshell, right?
Punjabi.
There you go. There's one.
Oh my goodness.
We saw the Ron Jeremy, Ron Burgundy mix up during the Pacers game. And then, of course, the feud with Wale, the infamous feud with Wale that will go down in history, is one of the greatest broadcast moments in Raptors games.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are just three completely unrelated things, but completely make sense to every Raptor fan. So, Vivek, appreciate you. We'll have you on next Wednesday. We'll talk more soccer. But that does it for us today. I'm your host, Wolu. You've been listening to The Raptor Show, powered by DoorDash on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Make sure you find The Raptor Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review our show. Reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday between 2 and 3 p.m. Thanks again to my guests, Dan Devine and Vivek Jacob, to our board producer, Derek Brandale. Congrats on Portugal clinching, by the way. And Jennifer Olnick for helping us behind the scenes with the YouTube stream. I'll talk to you soon.